John and Ed, they're on patrol, chasing shadows, heart and soul. Cryptid hunter UFO, down this rabbit hole they go. In the woods and on the street, whispers follow their heartbeat. Alien eyes, giant's feet, old got shadows they all meet. Down the rabbit hole they dive, midnight secrets start to thrive. Mysteries keep them alive. In the dark, does truth survive? Haunted houses, midnight calls, endless echoes in the halls. Ghostly murmurs, secret falls, every clue, they chase them all. Whispers follow their heartbeat. Alien eyes, giant's feet, old got shadows they all meet. Down the rabbit hole they dive, midnight secrets start to thrive. Mysteries keep them alive. In the dark, does truth survive? Haunting walls, they've got the key. Hidden fears, they set them free. Cryptid hunter, you and me. Down this rabbit hole, let's see. Unseen worlds, they've got the key. Hidden fears, they set them free. Cryptid hunter, you and me. Down this rabbit hole, let's see.
Good evening, one and all. Good evening, Ed. And we're trying a bit of an experiment tonight. So the experiment is that we are broadcasting allegedly in horizontal and vertical at the same time. So if you have any issues, let me know, people. Right.
You like adding to your own production problems, don't you?
I need a producer, so I'm just going to make that painfully obvious. Am I not? I really do need a producer. Right. I think it's all go. There's a sound on the vertical stream, anyone that's on it.
And also, out of interest, is my picture any better this week?
Yes, it is. What have you done? You look stunning.
No, I doubt that. But that fireplace that I had running, I think it was too high resolution and it was chewing up bandwidth.
So that was 4K, wasn't it?
Yeah, it could well have been.
Yeah.
But no, so I've got the trusty fish tank on tonight, which is not network connected. So
you look glorious, mate. Considering you were wrecked last night and sending me dodgy texts, something about toilet roll and
Just
Toilet-
shut up.
Toilet roll and fridges? I don't know what you were saying. Anyway. So
God.
we're going to dive into the secret, what's it called? The Secret Service Bureau and other things. This is possibly going to be a new series if you guys like it. We're going to start digging into all the different 3-letter agencies, both here and abroad. Some of those 3-letter agencies obviously have more than 3 letters. Once you get out into like some of the Eastern German ones, or even towards the Middle East and places like that. So I'm sure we could have some quite good fun with it if we survive it. What do you think, Ed?
I think so too. And I think it would be, I think one of the shows should be a comparison between the old East German Stasi, and
Keith
some of
Starmer.
the- well, yeah, pretty much. Or we could just do a show about the Stasi, and people can make up their own minds how similar or different they were to Britain in 2025. we should really be calling ourselves the British Democratic Republic or something.
Good grief for that. I mean,
The People's Republic of Britain.
Yeah. Right. So what I would like to say is good evening to the trial room, and in particular Dread Eye and Julie, Beats and Tapes, Shalini. Who else we got? Stuart Holt, Nectaridus. Who else? Who else are we missing? Have I missed anyone?
I think so.
I don't think so. I think I've got you all there. Couple
I
missing.
probably have some stragglers, and I would imagine that there's people listening and watching who aren't in the chat. So hello to you guys as well.
Yeah, there will be. There are people that seem to be like, what would you call it?
Lurking. I
Lurking.
think is the correct term for it.
Lurking. Yeah, they're lurkers. Right.
It's fine. People don't have to be active in the chat. We just like the audience.
Oh, Espresso Mechanic TV's over on Vertical. That's cool. And Emma Watts is over on Vertical as well. Hello, Emma. So I've got 2 chats now. I really need a freaking producer. Anyone who wants to be a producer, just let me know, you know? Just let me know. Hit me up. Can't pay you. Oh, right. Anyway,
You never know. If you ask enough times, you might end up getting some mad bastard that will say yes.
well, there's always that. So what I thought we would do, Ed, is I'm going to give a kind of brief introduction to the Secret Service Bureau and how it came about. And I've actually got, I've gone old school, people. I've got
By
paper.
Secret Service, you mean MI5?
Well, it became MI5, but it was the Secret Service Bureau when it was formed.
Yeah, but if you call it Secret Service Bureau, they're not going to know what you're talking about.
Well, of course they do. They read the title. Come on. They're not complete idiots, are they? Oh. Ed needs to stop taking drinks after he's just had a rant. It's gonna be his undoing. Oh.
One will be my undoing. It's official.
It's a fish, did you say?
Yeah. It's absolute. No, it's official, not a fish. Jesus.
Oh boy. I'm glad I did a kind of half all in the other night, because we would really be here for 4 hours tomorrow if I hadn't. It's just ridiculous. The amount of news that's come out is just ridiculous. Right, here we go.
Even just in the last 24 hours, it's been nuts.
Yeah, I know. The Secret Service, commonly known as MI5. Okay, you happy now, Ed? Happy now?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. And that stands for, as you know, Military Intelligence Section 5. Has played a pivotal role in safeguarding the United Kingdom's national security for over a century. A century, they say. Established in 1909 as part of the Secret Service Bureau, MI5 initially focused on countering German espionage activities in the lead-up to World War I. Over subsequent decades, its mandate expanded to address evolving threats, including Soviet infiltration during the Cold War, Irish Republican terrorism, and contemporary challenges posed by Islamic extremism and cyber warfare. The agency's history reflects broader geopolitical shifts, technological advancements, and the delicate balance between civil liberties and state security. This report examines MI5's institutional development, operational milestones, and adaptation to modern security paradigms through 5 key historical phases.
That sounds like it came straight off the MI5 website.
Well, it didn't actually, but the Secret Service Bureau in Germany and espionage. MI5 originated in the Secret Service Bureau, a joint initiative between the War Office and Admiralty, created in 1909 to address the growing concerns about German espionage. Captain Vernon Kell. Now, I tried to find out some stuff about Vernon Kell to see if he had any really good stories or anything, but he doesn't. He just seems to be a bit of a kind of really nondescript guy, and that's probably exactly what you want as a spy master, don't you?
Well, they say that they say that of the best spies, that they're basically just the bloke next door, the sort of person that would just disappear into a crowd. But also Kell, I mean, it seems to have just been one guy at a desk hunting Nazis, effectively.
Lou Elizondo.
Well, German spies. because it was pre World War I we're talking about.
Yeah, but
yeah, I mean,
Lou Elizondo, one guy at the desk hunting aliens in his head. That's what he was doing. Anyway, yeah. So Vernon Kell, a British Army officer, fluent in 5 languages, was appointed as its first director, leading a small team focused on identifying and neutralising foreign agents operating within the UK. Now, remember that MI5, Military Intelligence 5, operates within the UK. There is no James Bond tonight. If you were waiting for James Bond, you'll have to wait for Military Intelligence 6, Section 6, because they're the ones that have James Bond.
Yeah, but it's also in the same way that, because in the US, the FBI does domestic and the CIA does international. And there's actually laws that say that the CIA is not allowed to conduct operations on American soil.
Unless...
But it still does.
No, unless they are working with an accredited local, I think it's like an accredited state enforcement agency.
Right. Yeah, that's not open to abuse. I mean, that's part of the thing about Kell. They arrested an awful lot of people pre-World War I, and it actually came to light afterwards that the number of actual German spies in Britain at that time was a lot less than the number of people that got arrested. So there have always been stories that they were a bit heavy-handed,
overzealous.
Overzealous.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, are you better to be safe than sorry in a wartime situation? I don't know.
Well, I mean, because it was 1909, so we're not exactly talking wartime itself. But
yeah,
if there's a lead up to a war, yes. But I mean, they still have to do some due diligence, and not. It's like interning all the Japanese people in America during the Second World War.
Well, we did that too.
No, absolutely, and I mean that's how governments act in time of war.
Yeah.
But still, it is something that then needs to be investigated, because then afterwards, at least the people wrongly arrested should get sorry, if nothing else.
Sorry, how bad. Right. So Vernon Kell started with a staff of 6 Ed. He wasn't just himself. He had 6, and it grew to 844 by 1918. That's not bad. Their World War I tactics, as you said, were they were mainly postal interception. So they were monitoring methods of German enemy aliens, and they interred 32,000 people. That's quite a lot, like you said.
Mm.
I'm no doubt there were not 32,000 German spies in the country.
No, but it's unfortunately these things do happen during war.
Yeah,
I mean, we've got the current government locking people up for posting stuff on social media. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's actually pretty similar, isn't it, when you think about it? And they also had a thing called DORA powers, DORA, like Dora the Explorer. Defense of the Realm Act. The Defense of the Realm Act allowed arrests without trial. And it was criticised for overreach. Yeah, probably a little bit.
Is that still active?
I don't know. I need to check that out. The Defense of the Realm Act. It's probably been repealed. And there was a...
to be honest, there's probably some anti-terror law they could use anyway.
Yeah. So conspiracy... Well, yeah, the anti-terror laws are pretty much the same. You can arrest someone without... Or you can detain them really for unlimited time. They don't have the right, as you've found out recently, they don't have the right to a phone call. They don't have the right to have anyone informed. They don't have the right to a lawyer. You know, so basically the anti-terror laws are just massively overreach, I think, if applied against one's own citizens. I think there should be an exemption in the anti-terror laws that you can't apply them to a citizen.
Well, I mean, most of the current anti-terror laws came in the wake of 9/11, which was a great excuse for them to introduce all this authoritarian nonsense. But it's Christ, I completely forgot what I was going to say. I hate it when that happens.
That's okay. You've just killed off some of the brain cells last night. They weren't, yeah, but they weren't doing any good anyway. You're better getting rid of them, you know. If they're weak enough to get killed off by a little alcohol, then you're better off without them. Just
survival of the fittest.
Yeah, let the survivors take the heavy load. Conspiracy angle. Early MI5 feared a German hidden hand was manipulating British pacifists and unions. Well, do you not think governments still fear that? They seem to because they have this. Their hidden hand these days seems to be the far right, which, as far as I can make out, doesn't actually exist.
No,
it's just a term that's bandied about, you know.
Well, it's the same. I mean, early MI5 were going after far left, i.e., communists and people who were affiliated with the Soviet Union or fascists, because they monitored the British Union of Fascists as well, which is Oswald Mosley's crowd, I believe.
Yeah. Sorry.
Well, no, because it was also after World War One, they had a massive funding cut, and there was a lot of competition with other agencies that had sprung up during the war. And I don't know. I've always thought that these intel agencies, how often do they actually create their own threats? Because these people have to justify their existence. There always has to be some kind of threat. And even in the Cold War period, they weren't constantly spying with each other, against each other. I mean, it was just, well, no, I mean, they were, but they weren't killing each other's agents and stuff like that. A lot of it was just intelligence gathering. Yeah.
So actually, you touch on a good point there, because I remember I used to listen to a podcast all the time called No Agenda with Adam Curry and John C. Dvorak. And I mean, they're still going, and it's a very good show. They had a theory that the FBI needed a major incident every 6 weeks to keep the attention up and to keep the funding stream and to keep them relevant. And when you actually started looking back at it, kind of much played out. There was something happened every 4 to 6 or 4 to 7 weeks, right? There was always something happened. And sometimes it was something that the FBI had orchestrated, like, you know how they did set up people, and like they would take, I mean, just let's say mentally challenged people. I got there. You got to give me credit. So they would take like mentally challenged people and prime them and set them up and talk them into doing stupid things. And to me, that's not catching a terrorist. That's making a terrorist, you know?
Precisely. And I mean, that sort of thing's still going on today.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it does make you wonder how much, because these guys supposedly are out there gathering intelligence, which is actually fairly passive. You're not trying to influence anyone. You're finding out what people think and what people are saying and trying to infiltrate foreign governments and stuff like that. It's when you get into the territory of trying to influence policy in foreign governments, mm-hmm. or actually doing more than just gathering intelligence. I mean, that's where it starts to get very murky. But
yeah,
it's also, I mean, the other thing that MI5 supposedly does is create double agents, where they find out that someone is working for an enemy.
Let's hold off on that, because there's a whole section on the double cross, right? But anyway, before we go into that, I just want to say thank you to the people over on the Vertical stream, which is our experiment tonight. Scott Chegg, McNell's TV is over in Vertical as well. Emma was there. I think she's joined us on Horizontal. So there are two streams, guys. There's one that you would watch. If you're on a phone, you're quite happy, stay on the Vertical. You can also come over to the Horizontal if you're watching on something like a computer or a TV or whatever. And it's the same thing. It's just a different format. And it's there for your convenience, because we go the extra mile to give you the best in entertainment. Don't we?
You do. Well, you do. I don't. I just sit here and talk and drink and smoke.
Yeah. Right. So the question is, do we want to go into World War II, or do we want to deal with MI section 1 to 4? Because what happened there?
Well, that was one of my big questions going into this whole thing, that I really wanted to know what happened to 1 through 4. Why does it just start at 5? And obviously it didn't. And MI, they were actually different. There was MI 1 through 4.
Yeah, there was.
MI1 dealt with, there was actually, it goes even more crazy than that, because there was MI1A, MI1B, MI1C, and MI1D.
Yep, there was.
But broadly speaking, MI1 dealt with cryptanalysis and communication security. MI2 dealt with geographical intelligence and regional expertise. MI3 dealt with European intelligence and Cold War transition. And MI4 dealt with aerial reconnaissance and technological innovation. So there's certain things that those agencies did that are now being done by MI6.
Yeah.
Oh, no. I meant GCHQ.
Yeah, I think 3 was kind of absorbed into MI6. So.
Mm-hmm. And then there's also obviously the special branch, which is affiliated with the police, which you probably know more about.
I think the special branch probably deserves to be a show all on its own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know much about it apart from the fact that they do counter-terror stuff.
Yeah. They do quite a lot of stuff. And actually, one of the guys I didn't join with him, but I worked with him when he was in Irvine. He was in the CID, and he graduated into the special branch. He was called Metal Mickey because he'd had a car crash and broken both his legs, and they had to put metal plates in to hold them together. So that was his nickname, Metal Mickey.
Set off airline security scanners for the rest of his life.
Yeah, probably. Right. Well, I don't know how long he lived, because he was a bit of a pisshead. But the best one was we had an older CID guy, and there was an incident at the Chinese takeaway in Dreghorn one night, and one of the Chinese chaps behind the counter had taken offence to some of the local Neds, and he had emerged from the kitchen wielding his massive chopper, right? So we get sent to this, and there was blood everywhere. Bloody hell. Talk about... And the thing is, they were still trying to serve Chinese meals.
God.
There's like everywhere and be like, no, cut, just shut this place down. They're like, and I'm like, no. So anyway, the CID arrives and he takes one look at this and he sits down on the wall outside and he's like this. And he takes out this slip of paper, right? And unrolls it and folds it into a V and then just takes it back and goes, oh. It was an Ascot. Do you remember Ascot powders?
No.
It was kind of like powdered aspirin, basically. You used to mix it in water and then take it down. If you're a headache. He was chugging these things straight. Without any water.
At least he wasn't snorting them.
There is that. So
if you're a
anyway,
policeman and you see a colleague ingesting white powder, it's
yeah, I know.
there are probably questions that need answering.
It was the 80s. Anything could have been going on, mate. I'm telling you, anything. You ever seen that? You ever watched Ashes to Ashes? Gene Hunt. No. Oh, you've got to watch Ashes to Ashes. If you want to know what the 80s were like as a police officer, Ashes to Ashes is more like a documentary than a drama. That's exactly what it was like. It was crazy. They were doing stupid things, and we did very similar things as well. Anyway. Right, where are we? World War II. Let's move to World War II. The double cross system and strategic deception. So, Operation Double Cross. They turned 115 German agents into double agents, including Juan Pujol Garcia, also known as Garbo, who fabricated a fake 27 spy network for them. So these were German spies that were now working for MI5. How do you trust someone that you've turned, though? That's the thing. How do you trust them?
I think that there has to be you have to have some sort of leverage over them, or they don't know who they're working for. If you can insert yourself as a cutout, and those 27 spies think that they're actually working for Germany, but actually, because their information is going to someone who's working for MI5, these guys double agents without realizing it.
No, these guys knew they were double agents. I mean, it was absolutely incredible. I don't know how they did it. It's fantastic, though, isn't it? I think it takes a lot of skill. Yeah.
To be able to do something like that, certainly with double agents, because they have to essentially be able to convince two different sets of people, very suspicious people, that they are in fact loyal to each particular cause.
Now, here's a great question from McNell's TV. How are they not intelligent enough to work out what's happening with Turkish barbershops? They will be. They know exactly what's going on with Turkish barbershops. But if you leave them running, right, you know exactly where everything's going through. You know who's doing what. You get to get a feel for it. You know who's picking up stuff, who's not, and then you can tab them on and just expose the wider network. So you just leave them running. You know, you let them take over.
You can plant people, and you can plant surveillance and cameras and all kinds of stuff. So and also with quite a lot of these intelligence operations, if you start automatically arresting people, then you can actually reveal the sources of your intelligence, and people will know they're being watched, and then their behavior is going to change. Yeah.
So if it's a low grade operation like that, they'll let it take over. You know, they won't bother interrupting it. And you see, this is where you see a lot of TV programs based in the States normally, where some local cop arrests somebody that the DEA has been targeting for like 5 years and just about to bust them, and then the local police walk in and ruin everything. And that kind of does happen, you know. And the thing is, the police is like that as well. because you don't know what half of you don't know what the other half's doing. I mean, we were driving around Glasgow one night, and this car in front of us came busting through a red light, and we took off after it, and we chased it round about 3 streets, and we came to a fairly congested part, and the car stops, and all 4 doors bust open, and the 4 guys in the car run forward to another car that's nearer the front of the queue, and pull all the doors open and that, and start pulling the people out. And we're like, what the fuck? So anyway, I runs up to this melee that's going on, and one of the guys turns around and goes, "Oh, fantastic, can I borrow your handcuffs?" So that was an undercover drugs bust, right? By our, oh god, I can't even remember what we called them. It was, basically our drug squad was doing an undercover drugs bust. Didn't have a fucking clue. Stopped the car one night, stopped the car one night going the wrong way down a one-way street. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? So pulls it over, and it was Metal Mickey that was driving it. I'm like, where the fuck are you going, Mickey? And he goes, I can't tell you. I'm like, right, okay, never mind. Just go.
Going the wrong way up a one-way street is a surefire way of getting yourself stopped.
Well, yeah. But having said that, there always seemed to be a lot more police about in those days, didn't there, than there is now. I mean, you drive about nowadays, and you're lucky if you see a police car once a week. But maybe that's just me,
I see them quite frequently down here, but that's also Brighton.
Yeah. So, what's his name? Johnny John was on there saying there's something going on with the chat. There's 2 streams, John. There's a vertical and a horizontal. You appear to be in a horizontal chat. If you hear me talking about chat that you can't see, it's probably people that are on the vertical. Okay. For some reason, it would be good if YouTube could merge the chat streams when you do this, but leave the audio and video alone. But that's probably something that they're not interested in. The other thing is make sure you've got live chat on and not top chat, because if you've got top chat, you can miss chat as well. Ray is Scott Chegg, is he?
Oh, right. That makes sense.
Busted. There we go. Right. Operation Double Cross. So we've covered that, haven't we?
Operation Fortitude.
Yeah.
Because there were some, particularly during World War II and before the D-Day landings, there were some absolutely amazing bits of subterfuge and manipulation of intelligence and feeding the Germans the wrong information. And they actually, Operation Fortitude convinced Hitler that the D-Day landings were actually a diversion.
Yeah.
And they even, I think they actually planted a corpse they found a corpse in a morgue in Britain.
Yeah, somewhere. They did. Yeah.
And they dressed him up as an airman, and they put.
Did we cover that?
I think we did briefly in a previous episode.
They shot him out of a torpedo tube.
Yeah, and they essentially launched him into the South Atlantic, and he ended up on the Spanish coast. And the intelligence that he was carrying was taken to the Germans, who absolutely believed it. And it was a massive coup. I mean, if the intelligence operation hadn't have been as successful as it was, the D-Day landings would have gone a lot worse than they did. And I mean, they were bloody difficult enough as it is. But if the Germans had warning that was actually going to be where the Allies were going to be landing.
Could you excuse me a second? Keep going.
Yeah, of course. There would have been a lot more German troops on those D-Day beaches. And the D-Day landings probably wouldn't have been as successful as they were. I mean, there's also MI5 developed some very interesting techniques for breaking prisoners, not torture, but using psychological methods, which is, again, really fascinating. But one does wonder okay, wartime, you're doing it against the Germans, but what's to stop them using these sorts of tactics against the British population, for example, which is not something that they're supposed to do. But I often wonder that about these intelligence services, because obviously these are rabbit hole shows, and we know that all sorts of nefarious people get up to all sorts of nefarious things. And it's hard to believe that at least certain factions within these organizations are not necessarily working in the best interests of the rest of us. Let's see what's happening. Oh, well, John's gone. Shalini, I saw that thing about the V mask. Yeah, that was a friend, present from a friend at Stand in the Pub group that I go to in Brighton, which I don't know why I put it up on the backlist, but it was just an idea, and it just seems to work really well. So it's staying there. Let's take it. That was Operation Mincemeat. Is that the same operation? Don't know. I'd have to research it, because the one that we've got is, but I mean, they have so many of these operations. There could well be different operations doing similar things that have different names. Right, so he's back.
Sorry. Had something going wrong with the diesel heater.
Right.
Sorry.
That's not good.
It was cycling up and down, so I've pulled the power on it.
We just got to the camp 020 interrogation,
Oh,
which
yeah.
was MI5's secret prison at Latchmere House, which was employing these psychological tactics to break spies.
Yeah, I like the way that it's in brackets, not torture. Of course it's not. We're British. We don't do torture, you know. Although, what's his name? Vernon Kell, he was, the guy that started it all. He was very particular about never laying your hand on a person, on another spy, because if you start beating someone up, they will basically tell you anything you want to hear in order for you to stop beating them up.
Well, this is the thing about torture, is that there is study after study after study that says, and also real world experience that says it simply doesn't work, that once you inflict a certain level of pain on people, they will literally tell you everything that you want to hear.
Yeah.
It's what they use it for is breaking people and setting an example to others.
Yeah.
And also, if you're interrogating someone in one cell and in the cell next door, you've got someone being beaten up and they're screaming, then that tends to serve as a bit of an inducement to the person in the other cell to actually start talking, lest the same thing happen to them. But I don't know, that was something else that changed after 9/11 with these intelligence agencies. That was the days of that old 24 series with Kiefer Sutherland, where Jack Bauer basically just tortures his way to information and does all kinds of horrible things, which prior to 9/11 Americans wouldn't have even entertained. And it's we're the good guys, and the good guys don't torture, and we use other means. That was at least the public face of it.
Yeah.
And then after 9/11, obviously the gloves came off, and they used the whole false flag nonsense operation that was 9/11 in order to further larger geopolitical agendas. And now, when you look at the moment, we have British journalists like Kit Clarenberg and what's the other one? Dave Medhurst? Medhurst as well, who are being picked up by counter-terrorism police in the UK at Heathrow Airport or Gatwick or wherever. It's when you get off the plane until you actually get through the UK border, you're effectively in no man's land, legally speaking. And so the government they've used that as the way to pick people up for questioning. And as you pointed out at the beginning of the show, if you're picked up under the Terrorism Act, you don't have a right to be silent. You don't have a right to not give them the keys to your devices and stuff and your passwords, and you don't have any rights whatsoever. And for them to be using those sorts of powers against journalists who are publishing stuff that they disagree with kind of just proves everything J.D. Vance was saying in his speech that we'll undoubtedly talk about tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it kind of does, doesn't it? I mean, right, shall we move on? So, what's his name? Churchill took over the MI5 in 1940. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Churchill was the head of MI5 in 1940 before he was made Prime Minister.
Well, he always said that the truth needed to be protected with a bodyguard of lies. I think he used the term. Yeah.
And they're still doing it, aren't they?
Undoubtedly.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly. I mean, you can see that with all of the Russia thing. There was only not that long ago, there were revelations about a secret group within the British government connected to the intelligence services, Project Alchemy, I think they're called, who are heavily involved in Ukraine war propaganda, and even down to convincing the British public that they'd have to put up with a drop in their living standards so that we could spaff billions on this pointless war that is being lost.
Yeah.
But it's a similar sort of thing.
Let's talk about that tomorrow.
Yeah, anyway. No. I'm only raising it in reference to the intelligence services.
So let's move on to the Cold War scandals, the Cambridge 5 and Soviet infiltration. This is where MI5 gets its comeuppance a bit, doesn't it?
Yes, and the Cambridge 5 particularly is something that I've been fascinated by since I first heard about it. And the 5 refers to, originally it was Cambridge 4, and then later on it was revealed that there was a 5th. And they all long suspected that there was a 5th man, but nobody really knew who it was. But the original 4 were Donald McLean, Guy Burgess, Kim Philby, and Anthony Blunt. And they were all working for the Soviets for a very long time. And they passed, what is it? Donald McLean passed information on the atom bomb and NATO formation. And his most significant action was leaking details of the Manhattan Project, undermining US confidence in British intelligence. He defected to Moscow with Guy Burgess in 1951. They were also gay lovers. And this is also a time when homosexuality was obviously illegal in the UK. Guy Burgess worked as a journalist, and then for MI6 during World War II and later in the Foreign Office. And he passed 4,604 documents to the Soviets, more than any other member of the Cambridge 5. And he died in Moscow in 1963. And Burgess also died in Moscow, but in 1983. Kim Philby was one of the worst, or possibly one of the best in terms of spying, but one of the worst in terms of just how much he betrayed his own country. But he was actually an art historian who's a surveyor of the Queen's Pictures and also director of the Courtauld Institute. Recruited in 1934, he worked for MI5 during World War II, passing British intelligence to the Soviets and warning fellow agents of counterintelligence operations. He confessed in 1964 under immunity and was exposed publicly in 1979, and then died in 1983. And then the 5th man was John Cairncross, who was born in 1913, but he was only identified as the 5th man in the 1990s. And he worked in the Foreign Office, the Treasury, Cabinet Office, Bletchley Park, MI6, and Ministry of Supply, leaking atomic secrets and raw decrypts like Enigma and Tunny. He also influenced the Battle of Kursk. He confessed in 1964 and died in 1995. So, unbelievably damaging spies, not just in terms of the actual intelligence that they passed to the Soviets, but also the way that they dented confidence of our allies like the United States. And after the Cambridge 5, there was a weariness on the part of the Americans to actually trust British intelligence completely. But it was also didn't all come out in one go. The exposure of the Cambridge Five was a very gradual process, which started with the defection of Maclean and Burgess in 1951. And the FBI's Venona project identified Maclean as a homo, and Philby Station in Washington warned them, leading to their escape to Moscow. So it was Philby that got them out. Well, he didn't get them out, but he gave them enough of a head start that they were able to leave. Philby also came under suspicion and defected in 1963 after being confronted with evidence, which was confirmed by KGB defector Anatoly Golitsyn. Blunt was exposed in 1979 following the publication of The Climate of Treason by Andrew Boyle, and Cairncross's role was confirmed in 1990 by Oleg Gordievsky. And then MI5 and MI6 engaged in efforts to cover up the scandal with over 400 top secret documents revealing attempts to prevent public disclosure, which essentially highlights just how embarrassing it was. There was also a famous book, what was it called? Spycatcher. Yeah. Peter something or other. What was his name? Anyway, but I remember that during the 80s that oh Christ, what was his surname? Anyway, he wrote this book, Spycatcher.
Yeah.
And the British government managed to get it banned, certainly from publication in the UK. It was published elsewhere, so people were still able to read it. But obviously, this is the days before the internet, where it's much more difficult to get foreign books from
Peter
abroad.
Wright.
That's the one, Peter Wright. And it's absolutely, but yeah, it's just completely fascinating because the thing is that they actually believed that they were doing the right thing, and they'd become converts to communism because of fighting Hitler,
mm-hmm.
And the role that the Soviets played in that, and also ideological. I think they're fundamentally left-leaning socialist type people. So there was definitely an ideological thing. They weren't. I don't get the impression that any of them was actually doing it for money. It was all done out of ideology, which it makes you understand just how powerful ideology is as a motivator in these sorts of situations. That people, it's one thing to pay someone to believe in you, but if that person actually really does believe in you, then you've got a far more powerful asset.
Yeah. So moving on to the 70s, MI5 shifted its resources to counter Irish Republican IRA terrorism. Now, I think I can reveal this because I think it's probably a well-known fact by now, but the IRA never referred to themselves as the IRA. They always referred to themselves as the Provisional Irish Republican Army, right? And whenever there was a bomb threat called in and someone says there's a bomb and they were identifying themselves as the IRA, you knew you got a starter for 10, whether it was a real one or not, because the real ones would always say that they were PIRA and not IRA, not the IRA. And the, what was I going to say? The papers, even to this day, I think, still refer to them as the IRA and not very often PIRA, which was in common usage in the police and security services around the time. So the agency developed advanced surveillance techniques, including telephone tapping and informant networks, which disrupted over 85% of planned IRA attacks in mainland Britain by the 90s. Collaboration with the Royal Ulster Constabulary's Special Branch proved instrumental in dismantling IRA cells, although critics accused MI5 of colluding in human rights abuses on Northern Ireland. Now, the other thing that the MI5 have been asked about when it came to the Troubles was they conducted quite a few. They had quite a few moles, and they conducted quite a few kind of back channel things. And some say that their back channel talks with the IRA via fish and chip shop owner Brendan Duddy led to the start of the 1998 Good Friday Agreement. But MI5 was accused of aiding loyalist death squads.
That's the Pat Finucane case.
And that was, there was a confirmed 20 collusion-linked murders that basically MI5 knew about, but never took any action on. Now, so the question is, and it leads back to what we were talking about earlier with the FBI, was MI5 prolonging the troubles in order to maintain its budget stream?
Nothing would surprise me in this world, honestly. And I mean, some of the dodgy things that happened in Ireland, particularly, were absolutely bloody awful and wrong. And
you remember those two army guys that get caught in the car when they were observing the funeral? I mean, one, what the hell were they doing there anyway? But they were just torn apart. That was horrible.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a very different sort of Ireland. One thinks, because I don't know if you see what's happening there now based on what people have said. I mean, it's a very similar thing happening in the rest of Europe.
Yeah.
And yeah, the Irish fought for 700 years to gain their freedom from the British, only to just give it up to the bloody communists in the EU.
Yeah. and they have. They seem to be lying down and letting it roll over them. I don't understand it. I really don't, but you know.
Me neither. But anyway, going back to the MI5 and the IRA and stuff. Where are we? There was that, because there was another guy, Raymond McCord Jr.'s murder in 1997. And then there was an informant who was also involved, and allegations of MI5 turning a blind eye to crimes by their informants. That's unfortunately something that's kind of followed them around over the years.
Wasn't Alfredo Scapetici?
Scapetici. Steak knife, he was called.
Yeah. But I can understand that. It'd be a lot easier than trying to say Scapetici in an Irish accent.
Yeah. Absolutely. But it's just, I mean, it kind of highlights the fact that this organization is not, it's not squeaky clean by any stretch of the imagination.
Oh no, of course not.
Put it that way. And we don't even have to delve into allegations and conspiracy theories and all this stuff. There's plenty of actual evidence of stories that have come to light over the years. And it just makes you wonder what nefarious stuff is happening right now.
Yeah.
I can take a guess. Oh,
I'm sure you could.
So, should we move on to
go on
post-Cold War?
Yeah.
Post-Cold War, MI5 focused on counter-terrorism, particularly Islamic extremism, but faced controversies over extraordinary rendition, which is that wonderful practice of black bagging people and taking them off to foreign sites with much looser morals, shall we say? Places like Poland and Egypt and there's black sites in Poland, Guantanamo Bay, and
I know
other places as well.
I know. Poland's kind. I don't understand Poland these days. It kind of presents itself as some kind of, the best of the former East, if you know what I mean. And I really don't think it was. And I don't think it is now.
I don't think there is any such thing as an actual best country, because every person who lives in whatever country thinks their country is the best.
Do they?
Trust me, when you come from two countries, you notice it becomes immediately apparent what people are like. To start with, they're always asking. I always get questions which imply making me make some kind of choice. For example, England playing Holland at football. Who do you support? I don't. I turn it off. I can't fucking stand football. And that's just nationalism. Anyway, where were we?
Cheers to McNell's TV, who's just joined the channel as a probationer. Well done, sir.
Ooh.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
It's always nice.
Right, so the 9/11 attacks prompted MI5's largest expansion since World War II, with staff doubling to 4,500 in 2010. And then the 7/7 London bombings exposed gaps in monitoring homegrown extremism. And this is a big gap in their monitoring, because they never expected people that were born in this country to take action against it in the manner of the 7/7 attacks. They never expected their own citizens to do this. They were always looking for people coming in, fresh immigrants, if you will.
I would suggest that people go back and watch our show about the London bombings, because we did a whole rabbit hole podcast about that one.
Yeah. And that led to the creation of regional offices in Birmingham, Manchester, and Glasgow. Glasgow, because of our large Pakistani population. I can even tell you where the MI5 offices are in Glasgow, because I've been in them.
That's to say you're not working for them.
Wow.
No, I don't think you're working for
MI5. Do you think if I
MI5?
was working for MI5, I'd be sitting here on a Thursday, on a wet Thursday night in Scotland, pouring my heart out to you with misinformation? Pacific Quay in Glasgow, that's where the MI5 office is.
Right, so they'll be knocking on your door tomorrow.
No, I mean it's generally known. I mean they share it with the Scottish Police Authority as well. Because they used to use it before. They used to use police premises as temporary offices whenever they were doing ops in Glasgow or Edinburgh or whatever. So they would always share police premises when they were doing these things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, right. Where was I?
MI5 regional office.
Yeah. So since 2010, 67% of disrupted plots have involved Islamic extremists, while 23% related to Northern Ireland dissidents. In the cyber domain, MI5's National Cyber Security Centre, established in 2016, has countered state-sponsored hacking groups linked to Russia.
We forgot the Profumo affair.
And China. But we can always come back to that if you want. The 2020 Integrated Review allocated $1.9 billion to enhance cyber defences, reflecting the growing centrality of digital threats. So MI5's evolution from a 6-person bureau to a technologically advanced security apparatus mirrors the UK's changing threat landscape. While controversies over mass surveillance and agent recruitment persist, the agency's ability to adapt from countering Edwardian-era spies to AI-driven disinformation campaigns remains critical. Future challenges will require balancing proactive intelligence gathering with democratic accountability, ensuring MI5's relevance is an increasingly complex global security environment.
And by democratic accountability, they mean the accountability to Keir Starmer.
Cellini doesn't know about the Profumo affair. How can you not know about the Profumo affair? Mind you, I suppose it was quite old. It was quite old.
Yeah, I mean, it was 1960s, so
yeah.
It's only people who take an interest in these sorts of things that would necessarily know about it in this day and age. But it was a major political scandal in the 1960s involving John Profumo, who was at the time war minister, because we actually had a war minister in the 1960s, and Christine Keeler, who was a model linked to a Soviet spy. And it led to Profumo's resignation, weakened the Conservative government, and contributed to their 1964 election loss. And a surprising aspect is that MI5 suspected it might have been a Russian plot to embarrass the UK, although no security breaches were confirmed. And it centered on John Profumo, obviously Secretary of State for War. And he only had a brief affair with Christine Keeler, who was 19 years old at the time, starting in 1961. But the scandal erupted in 1963 when Profumo lied to Parliament about the affair, only to admit the truth later, which then led to his resignation on June the 5th, 1963, which weakened Harold Macmillan's government, which then subsequently resigned in October 1963. And then the Conservative Party were beaten in the 1964 elections. So it had quite a profound impact on the government at the time. And I think it was also Private Eye, the satirical magazine. Yeah, I think they were involved in the scandal coming out as well.
Yeah, I think they might have been, yeah.
But it all centered, essentially, it was centered around Christine Keeler, because she was sleeping with John Profumo, but she was also sleeping with Yevgeny Ivanov, who was a Soviet spy. And because of that...
She was a prostitute, wasn't she?
She was a model, John.
Sorry.
But it's also, I mean, we have to remember that this is the early 1960s, where the sexual morals were different than they are now, kind of thing. Well, there was just lots of shagging going on, basically. I mean, it's the early 60s. Everyone was shagging everyone else.
19 was probably quite old in those days when it came to shagging, to be fair. Shalini.
So yeah, that was the Profumo affair.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been various books and films and all sorts of different things about it, and it's worth investigating.
Yeah, and
oneself. I mean, we could actually. I mean, there's enough there to do a whole rabbit hole about it.
And there's loads of. If you ever want to catch up on MI5, there's loads of TV dramatizations and programs about it as well. You know,
Spooks was good. I enjoyed that.
Spooks, To Catch a Spy. You know, all the Jean le Carre books, and I'll tell you, Slow Horses. You want to watch Slow Horses? It is freaking tremendous. Also,
Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy with John Hurt.
Yeah, that was a John le Carre.
It's a really good movie.
John le Carre book as well, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's not quite James Bond.
Yeah,
in terms of action and grippingness, but because le Carre was connected to the intelligence services, so he kind of knew what he was talking about, and it's a fairly accurate portrayal of what things were like back then and the overall mood, because I think it's difficult for people in 2025 who didn't live through any part of the Cold War to understand what things were like back then. I mean, 1963, we're talking around the period of the Cuban Missile Crisis and a world that's possibly a little bit less unstable than our current world, because the current world seems like a bloody tinderbox most of the time.
I don't know. I mean, recently, my own gut feeling tells me we have stepped away from potential nuclear war. I think the Trump
I bloody hope so.
Trump coming to power seems to really have defused that, because at one point there, you know, round about October, November, you just didn't have a clue what Biden was going to do, or more importantly, what the MIC, the military industrial complex behind him, were going to do, because he had no control over them. And
well, this is
they were pushing,
thing.
You know?
Absolutely. I mean, because Biden, and we know this now, the media's were hiding it for his entire presidency, that he was essentially not competent to be president.
Yeah, well we kind of knew that, didn't we?
Yeah, which meant that all of these bureaucratic fiefdom and agencies and all of these shadowy people, National Endowment for Democracy, pretty much all of the people that Donald Trump is now going after and sacking large numbers of.
Yeah.
Which I think is personally, I think it's a good thing. And I'm warming to JD Vance every speech he makes because he talks a huge amount of sense. And I'm actually kind of enjoying the fireworks. And I mean, this is obviously more stuff to discuss tomorrow.
I'd love to be able to buy a ticket to watch him in Starmer. I'd love to be a fly on the wall when that goes off.
Oh, yeah, I really would. Absolutely. Oh, yeah. It's going to come in with this grandiose plan to put 30,000 troops in. You know, it's typhoons. I mean, just, they're brainless. It's like, if you want to start a war with a nuclear armed superpower.
I was watching. We should really leave it till tomorrow, but
yeah, no, we should. Absolutely.
I was watching a snippet from Glenn Greenwald, who I find a bit insipid normally, but he was bang on. You know, he was telling this guy on some news show. You know, the guy with the patch. I've forgotten his name. You know, he thinks he is something because he was a soldier. He wears an eye patch.
Not ringing any bells.
But he's going on about no, you're wrong, John. The Ukraine are winning the war, and Russia are losing millions of people. The ratio is 4-1, and things like that. And Greenwald's going, if Ukraine are winning, I mean, he's quite straightforward. He goes, if Ukraine are winning the war, what direction is the front going in? Why is it going east?
Yeah.
And that's it.
Well, they're going to, at some point, it's going to come out that
Dan Cranshaw.
Because when these people talk about how many casualties the Russians have taken or how well the battle's going, they're getting all of that information from the Ukrainians. Mm-hmm. They don't listen to anything the Russians say because it's all Putin propaganda.
Yeah, of course.
And when it comes out that 1 million plus Ukrainians are dead, there's going to be a bunch of shocked people out there. And I mean, you can tell there's even videos. I mean, someone's done a 3-hour
the graveyard
video of just graveyards in Ukraine.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is absolutely insane. It's just, you can't fight a war of attrition against Russia. It cannot be done. Hitler tried it, failed. Napoleon tried it, failed. And they were both infinitely better generals than any of the idiots in NATO. But yeah, now we're diverging into all-in territory. Have we got more MI5 stuff?
Well, no, I think we're pretty much wrapped up MI5. You know, it's been a cursory look at it, the history of MI5. I mean, I'm not saying we won't revisit some of its more famous operations, but I think
there's also all sorts of rumors. I mean, there was rumors that they were spying on Diana.
Yeah, there was. I mean, you wanted to keep this to about an hour, and that's us just over.
Oh, right, yeah. No, yes. I think, yeah.
You know, I do look after your health.
I wish I did sometimes.
Yeah, but we can
go on. Tomorrow's going to be a bloody long show anyway.
Yeah, we'll have a longer show tomorrow. But yeah, no, that was cool. I think I quite enjoyed it. Beats and States says John doesn't want to talk MI5 now because we exposed them.
Oh dear. But I mean, there's plenty more to come back to, because I mean, MI5 has been implicated in all sorts of bits of scandal, like torturing and rendering people to torture sites and all kinds of stuff like that involved in
the Diana thing. Was quite. I mean, the Diana thing was almost a given, because especially when she took up with Dodie. I mean, even before Dodie, they didn't like her boyfriend. Did he not die under strange circumstances, that guy? Do you remember that guy?
Which one?
Oh, the kind of I don't know, the kind of sleazy looking guy. Oh, good God. What was his name?
It wasn't the ginger one.
No, he was. No, that was Hewitt. That was Harry's dad.
Oh, dear. I'd just like to point out that was John that said that, not me.
Sorry. It was my MI5 persona coming out. Cannot tell a lie.
Yeah, Espresso Mechanics mentioned the Cambridge 6 as well. You could literally do a 3-hour show just on MI5 and all of the associated rumors and allegations and stuff concerning the London bombings and what they knew and what they didn't know and who. I mean, the London bombings, supposedly they had the people that were accused of it under surveillance, the bombers, theoretically. So, yeah, it's difficult to know in this day and age how much power these guys wield in the background, especially with the internet, and the potential power and access that they've got to all of our information and tools that they're using that Edward Snowden talked a bit about in his some of his releases and things like that.
Who was this guy? Barry Manaki.
That name rings a bell.
He might not be dead, right? Manaki worked as a police officer with the Royal Protection Squad before being assigned to Diana as a bodyguard in 1985. Rumours of an affair circulated between the two of them that ultimately led to his dismissal from the role a year later. In 1987, he was killed in a motorcycle accident that led to conspiracy theories that his death had been planned. Yeah, Manaki, that was him.
Yeah, so we could go on and on. There's all sorts of stories like that have come out over the years of nefarious activity. And
Haji got it. There you go. Sorry.
And it must still be going on, if not worse, because of the whole Russia-Ukraine thing. There's probably more of it now.
Beats and tapes. I'm not up to date on what's happening with Madeleine McCann because I think it's been done to death, to be fair. We know what happened. We know who did it. We know that she's not alive anymore. The person that's purporting to be her is a nutter. I think we pretty much know it all, really. And you can bang on about these things, but they're never ever going to come out in the public light. It's just always going to be in the shadows. But I think everybody really knows what happened,
And I think to some extent it's also used as a distraction because it's something that the tabloids love jumping all over.
Yeah.
But there's still kids go missing to this day. I mean, the sort of child sex trafficking and things like that. Even bigger problem now than they were before. But the media will hark back to the Madeleine McCann story constantly. And then, they never focus against any of the allegations, for example, against Ukraine about child trafficking, because supposedly that place is one of the hubs of it.
Top 3 in the world,
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. This is the thing. This is the thing I don't get, because up until 2022, it was a cesspit. The EU were writing reports saying you've got to do more, you've got to try harder, you're not getting into the EU unless you clean up your act. The United Nations were doing the same thing, saying you've got an appalling record on children's rights. You've got children in slavery, working before the age of 13. And the US were creating reports as well saying you are a shithole. Get better, do better. And they weren't. They just weren't getting any better. Even under Zelensky, they weren't getting any better. And Zelensky, see, this is the thing that pisses me off. Zelensky was elected by the people of Ukraine on a ticket to bring peace. To bring peace, because
he he nearly had it, and they'd initial every page of the.
No, but even before that, he was elected on a ticket to bring peace to the East, because Ukraine and Donbass had always had this fucking beef against each other, you know. And there was the rebels in the Donbass backed by Russia, and then there was Ukraine who were shelling the Donbass since what, 2014, and the people wanted that to stop, and Zelensky was elected on a ticket saying he was going to stop it, and instead he fucking tries to start World War III. This is what gets me. And nobody fucking...
Yeah.
I mean, people are going on there saying Zelensky's not a dictator, he's an elected person, he's trying the best for his country. And Donald Tusk, and this should be on tomorrow night, but Donald Tusk from Poland stands up and gives them a fucking glowing recommendation, and I'm like, who the fuck dropped a missile on Poland, killed 2 of your citizens, and then tried to start World War III by asking for NATO to make a preemptive nuclear strike on Russia? Fuck me. You can't make that shit up.
No. It's absolutely mental. The amount of provocation that has happened as well. And they say Russia's unprovoked full-scale invasion. No, if it had been a full-scale invasion, they would have been at the edges of Kiev within a few weeks, and a lot of more of Ukraine would have been flattened. And
Putin made a lot of errors.
I find intellectually insulting because it ignores at least 25, if not 30 years of perfectly available history. We're not talking about history that was hidden. I mean, I've lived through it, and you see the way that the media demonizes Russia, and
Russia's not perfect.
Exactly, but no country's perfect, and our own government needs to sort itself out before pointing fingers at anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I mean, J.D. Vance said it really well in his speech at the Munich Security Conference, which I thought was, he certainly set the cat amongst the pigeons.
Yeah, he did.
And I mean, the thing about this, just to circle back to the topic of the show, is that MI5 is involved up to its eyeballs in all of that stuff.
Oh, yeah. So there's a question for you people, something to take away and think about. Is MI5 still relevant to Britain at this stage? Do we still need something like MI5, or should it be handled by, local police forces, special branch, and National Crime Agency? Should they be covering this kind of stuff? Why do we need a secret service organisation to do this? Or do we? It's a good, I think that's a reasonable question.
I think it's a very reasonable question. Yeah. And also, who watches the watchers? On the basis that, because we live in a dangerous world full of crazy people, that we need some sort of intelligence gathering capability, and we need some mechanism to identify and deal with legitimate threats to the country. Mm-hmm. And so those sorts of people have to have a degree of power that us mere mortals don't. But there has to be some sort of accountability. And I mean, there's been consistent rumors of MI5 knowing about pedophiles and using that information to control said pedophiles, people like Cyril Smith.
That's like a bonus, isn't it? I mean, really, if you're MI5 and you find this stuff out, what are you going to do? You're going to just burst the guy, or are you going to leverage him to your own ends, And this is where the line between good and bad and evil and, is really blurred, because, what are you trying to achieve here? It's just, it's nasty.
Do they work in?
Exactly, I mean, it's nasty.
Yeah, because to say that they work in the interests of the crown, sometimes the interests of the crown and the people are completely at odds.
I think I need to start wearing mascara and make my eyes look darker. Just like JD Vance. He might start a trend here. You think we should start? Should get your mascara on tomorrow night. I've got fantastic eyelashes. It would make my eyes really pop if I started wearing mascara.
No, fuck off. Just fuck off. Honestly, fuck off and keep fucking off until you can't fuck off anymore, and then fuck off a bit more. No, I'm not wearing makeup or mascara for you or anybody else. No.
Is it mascara or eyeliner? I don't know. I don't know what it is. It was.
Anyway, I don't know what it is, but I'm not wearing whatever it is.
Hey, you know what? You know, if you're okay with your own sexuality, does it really matter what you wear?
No, but unless, I mean, if you're going on like proper TV, you need a bit of stage makeup just because otherwise you're going to look like an idiot.
Yeah, but this is proper TV these days, mate. This is as good as it gets. You know, if you think about it, you're probably getting more truth in an hour here, right? From two old farts talking shit to each other, right? Than you would get in three or 4 days worth of BBC. Yeah.
Yeah, and certainly that certainly counts for All In.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
And it's fun because they give us plenty of material to cover. And I think this idea of the 3-letter agency series, it is good because they'll tie back. Yeah, no, that was your idea. I'm not taking credit for it. Because they're involved in so many of the rabbit holes. This is the thing. I mean, we've covered so many different rabbit holes over the time that we've been doing it. And there's a 3-letter agency involved in almost all of them. Yeah.
And there's another question then for people. Sorry, Ed, but there's another question for people out there. What's your next favourite 3-letter agency we should dive into? You come at us. Drop it in the comments. Give us your favourite 3-letter agency for us to do next. Because it doesn't need to be Section 6. It can be something else.
Yeah, no, I mean, it might be nice to travel abroad. We could also go back into the past. I mean, covering the KGB or the Stasi or one of the kind of Eastern European ones could be interesting as well.
Oh, those names coming out already. CIA, SGT,
SGT. Is that the French one?
Is he?
I don't think that's the French one.
There's going to be 3-letter agencies come up that we don't know anything about.
Well, there's FBI.
Well, yeah, of course there is.
We should maybe do a show on the FBI before Kash Patel nukes it.
And he has confirmed, so there's something else to talk about tomorrow. SGT normally stands for Sergeant, by the way, doesn't it? So I don't know what fucking beats and was it beats and tapes? Hatchies you're on about. What was the?
Do the Canadians have an intelligence service?
Yeah, hey, maybe about that. Yeah, I'm sure they do. And I mean, there's some pretty evil ones out there as well. NVKD and all that. Yeah. NKVD. Sorry.
Well, because most countries have an internal one and an external one.
Yeah.
And then some of them, because the Soviet Union, they had the NKVD, they had the KGB.
Who's got the GRU?
And then originally they had the Cheka, and I think the Cheka was what became the KGB, and that was the organization set up by Felix Dzerzhinsky.
The GRU controls the military intelligence service and maintains its own special forces unit, main directorate of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of the Russian Federation. That's their current intelligence service.
Well, no, because the GRU is the military. There's got the FSB, which is the, I think the FSB is the equivalent of the CIA.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Did the KGB not become the GRU?
No, I think they were two separate organizations.
Really?
I think the KGB became the FSB, but the GRU is always military intelligence.
This is stuff we'll find out.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe we should do. Maybe it'd be fun to do the KGB.
Well, let's see what the people say first. If they'll actually talk to us, if they talk to us and tell us,
Men in Black.
What is MIB? Yeah.
I mean, it would be fun to do a show. We should actually do a show on the Men in Black.
The Fluffy Columbus says GS4. Do you mean GP? Do you mean Group 4? No, I'm only kidding.
No, that's G4S.
Yeah, I know.
GSG, I think, is the French one. Well, we've had more votes for the CIA than any other.
So the KGB was replaced by the FSB and the SRV, the SVR.
Right.
God.
So one of them would be internal, one of them would be external.
FSB's internal.
Right.
The SVR is a foreign intelligence service.
Interesting. So
we're going to be we're going to be drowning in TLAs and like ETLAs.
There's another vote for the CIA. Why don't we cover the CIA next week?
Almost. Yeah.
Because there's a whole mountain. I'll make sure I'm well rested so we can do a bit of a longer show. Because there's so much to cover with the CIA.
Oh, CIA have had their finger in a few pies, haven't they?
Well, yeah, but there's also some, I mean, if you look at people like James Jesus Angleton and Alan Dulles, I mean, we're talking about some of the darkest people in American history.
HW.
Oh, well, yeah, he was a director of the CIA as well.
Yeah, he was, wasn't he?
And people like William Colby, who said that they'll know their mission is complete when everything the American people believe is a lie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's kind of where we're at now.
Yeah, pretty much.
So yeah, should we do CIA next week?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, if anyone, if we get a massive influx of comments looking for something else, then fair dues. But I think it's looking like we might be doing the CIA next week. And I'd just like to finish off by saying that at this point in time, neither of us are suicidal. We're in fairly reasonable health, and we don't intend to take any trips by small aircraft or hang about in hot tubs.
And also that this show has been purely for informational purposes. I'm not trying to divulge any state secrets or get anyone into trouble or anything like that.
And
all of the stuff we've covered is in the public domain.
And we do have dead men's handles activated, just in case.
Always sensible to have one of those.
Indeed. So thank you one and all for attending this show tonight, because we've had a blast, and I hope you have. In fact, I'm sure it's been great for you.